Hey, Drew. Good afternoon. How are you doing? It's good to see you again.
Man, I'm good. I'm good. But this is the 1st of October, starting a new month, October 1, 2023. And, man, I think we got a really good conversational topic here today. We're going to talk about SHEARS, our famous acronym. And we're going to talk about skills, habits, energy, how that impacts your attitude, how that affects your relationship, and ultimately how that drives your service. So I'm excited to see your thoughts and hear your thoughts on that.
Yeah, we came up with that acronym, SHEARS, what the tools you need to use to cut through the BS in life. If you're not careful, you're going to get distracted. You're going to get bogged down with weeds and extra branches that are going to impede your progress. But if you break out those shears and you use them right, you can cut through the BS and you can make a difference and you can be your best self. It's pretty interesting. 4 or 5 years ago, we started connecting with each other, and we started trying to figure out, maybe what can we share, what can we talk about, and so we started sharing some, books that focused on human development, and I think it's because we both had an interest in it. Me as a former special forces officer, responsible for training, foreign units and foreign armies. And then later in my career, I actually ran a 45-person almost consulting firm, but we were a training unit for special operations units. And so I was always about trying to, do continuous improvement, not only making yourself better, but then making teams better so they can work together well to accomplish big missions. And so reading these books with you, whether it's about management or leadership or individual, self-improvement or whatnot, it all surrounded around human development. And I think that's been a great nexus for us to crosstalk and help each other grow.
No, that's good. I found myself in a concrete shoebox just about 24 years ago, and I knew that I needed to change. Something needed to change inside of me, not just with my habits. I mean, that is a driving force of your life, but I needed to change in my mind, in my spirit, and in my very soul. And I had nothing but time to work on it. And that has just really been the theme of my life is developing myself. And for sorry, they're doing a big announcement. I don't know if you guys could hear that, but um, development. There was a lot of years. I think for the first 12 or 13 or so years of my incarceration, my sentence, you and I weren't even really in touch. Maybe at a family gathering, maybe I would talk to you for a minute and a half or 2 minutes, but you were still in a point in your military career where you were all over the world. And you're right. Not only was the military developing you, but you were sent out to other countries to help develop other groups of people for various situations. I myself was undergoing my own human reconstruction, and it was very serendipitous how we came together at a point in your career where your career was winding down, and I'm at a point in my sentence now where I'm winding down too, and we were able to study material that we were utilizing to help promote positive growth in our life, but it became a thing where we were helping promote and teach positive growth in other people's lives. And then you and I, through reading a series of books, came up with the SHEARS acronym. And I would implore people listening to think of like gardening shears, something that cuts through the drama, the stress, the distractions of life. And so that's kind of where we're at now. And that
Yeah.
summarize us a little bit.
Yeah, I think that's pretty good. You're right. I was coming up on a huge transition, finishing 26 and a half years of military service. Started out as an engineer officer, then I changed and volunteered and went through the training for Special Forces branch and served as an officer in the Special Forces. And it was scary. It was scary to come up on that transition because I didn't know, what else was I going to be, and I had a clash of my identity, and I had to figure out, okay, what am I about? I need, I'm going to be jettisoning, this old identity of a military officer. It's very structured, and you know, I had all my expectations. I knew what was expected of me at my rank and responsibilities and all that stuff. And now I was going to go into the scary civilian world. And I think that our talks helped get me through it. And at the same time, I also had a buddy who was another special forces officer, Mike Kenny, and he and I signed up for this 300-day optimize course, and it taught us, it gave us access to top-notch, philosophical and scientific literature on human development, and it had a pretty rigorous curriculum that you had to read through and complete for then you to get the certificate at the end, and we had a Spartan race at the end. And I think that helped me transition because it made me realize that a lot of what I learned in the military in respect to experience and leadership really applies to whoever in the human condition. And so I can apply it and use it out in the civilian world. And there's a lot of those books that I was exposed to in that course that then I said, hey, we should read these together. And so over time we've been reading them together, and I think that set the stage for us to come up with this acronym of SHEARS, because it back to the basics. You have to realize, what is your purpose in life? Where are you adding value? And then what skills do you need to do well at in order to succeed and achieve excellence? And do, not only to square yourself away, but how can you help others or to serve others in, lasting, loving relationships? And so number one, skills. And then that's what all I've been doing in the military is training people how to think differently and how to operate differently so they can achieve higher levels of excellence. And so, and talking about training and developing them, that's something you got to focus on, and that's something you got to manage as a learning organization. And I know you have some great skills. Um, I've been a recipient of numerous pieces of woodwork from you. Your heart and soul has gone into that, but that's pretty awesome craftsmanship that you've built in on your journey. And that's just one example. So that's the first hit for skills, whether it's shooting a weapon and doing it through repetition, or reading books and giving
Yeah.
speeches, or writing papers. It's all skill
Let me
based.
jump in here for a second. So, just to recap, I want to just reemphasize a few things about shears, and I think it's worthwhile saying we could break this up into two elements. The inner triangle of life, right, is we said it's skills, habits, and energy, and the outer triangle of life, and we even said that there's a higher sphere of this, which we'll get into eventually, but is attitudes, the attitude that you develop and maintain in your life, or the relationships that you maintain and keep, and those things equal the service you bring to the world, your family, your community. And I want everybody to know is that where I tanked in life is my attitude. And I had no skills. My parents sent me to school so I would learn how to read and write and play sports and do these things. They got me up early. Hey, it's time to go to school. Trying to reinforce habits, fed me good food to give me energy. And this is the inner triangle of life, right? The development of skills, the habits that support those skills, and then the energy, the sleep, the food, the rest. These things, it's your inner triangle of life. But out of these three comes your attitude. And when I got to a place in my life that I had no skills, I had absolutely no habits. I'm already dropped out of high school by this time. I'm thinking I'm going somewhere, but I'm going nowhere in a hurry. And I have no energy because I'm drinking, I'm using drugs. That the result of that was my attitude sucked because I didn't see how I fit in my community, in my society. I didn't really see any functional part, and so I was just kind of with wherever the tide took me. And because my attitude sucked, my relationship sucked. And that's not a condemnation of the people that were in my life, because there wasn't anything good in me drawing out the good inside of others. Okay? Because some of those people were also stuck in the same bad habit or pattern in life. And I don't know if some people listening also can recognize that pattern, that storyline in their life. But then my service was the mistake. Now I come to prison, and yet I get a job, and I'm a porter, I'm cleaning hall. Well, you know, kid, but I mean reading and studying, and I'm trying to read the Bible for the first time in my life and memorize certain things, and I'm searching my heart and my mind. But you know what happened? It reestablished the skills part.
Hey,
And
Drew.
also,
Hey, Drew, can you hold 1 second? Yeah, you're just a little garbled. And yeah, if you could go back.
can you hear me?
Yeah, I got you now. It was going great for a good while. This is why we're going to need to have an editor. But if you could go back and rehash the you talked about having the bad relationships you weren't able to give to others, and then and then you went into no, I got that.
Yeah, so my attitude tanked, and because I had a bad attitude in life, I had no hope. I didn't have a vision. I had no plan. My relationships were unfruitful as well. And I say there was no condemnation to the people that were in my life, because there was nothing good in me drawing out the good in them.
Yep.
But when I came to prison, it restarted my inner triangle. Then I started reading the Bible, studying, reading other books. I started working, learning how to weld. I ended up learning eventually how to do woodworking, which I did for 20 plus years now. And when I restarted that skills thing, one thing about prison is that I was on a schedule. I'm up at 7 o'clock in the morning, off to do things. I'm in bed. They turn off the lights for you at a certain time of night. It reestablished the habits.
Yeah.
And I started lifting weights and eating toothfish or rice. And it gave me energy. And I was sleeping throughout the night because I wasn't partying or drinking or doing drugs. That inner triangle was reestablished. And you know what happened? I got a better attitude. And you know what else happened after that? I started drawing good people into my life, because the good in me was drawing the good out of them. And we fed off one another. And I started producing a better service. Now, yes, I was in prison still, but for the first time in my life, I started to really have a positive impact on my environment. And so that's how the SHEARS thing has gone to impact me, and I could see how it played out in my life behind bars. So
that's pretty good.
That's just a little summarization how that. So the attitude thing. So I think we focus on today is the inner triangle of life: skills, habits, energy. And you mentioned woodworking. And let me tell you one thing about woodworking. I've been woodworking for about 20 years. And I said this, that skills is the result of three things: structured learning, failure, and time.
Yep.
And when I first started woodworking, I wasn't building elaborate jewelry boxes and flag boxes. I was just building simple hinges. The people that taught me in a structured manner. And they also allowed me to fail. I failed in a controlled environment too. Not so much so that I cut off all my fingers. I still have been working 20 years. I still got 10 fingers. That's a testimony right there. And then it was the element of time. It wasn't overnight. So together develops. So we agreed upon. There goes one of the boxes.
Yeah.
Really there.
We got some high-end skills going on here. Look at this.
Yeah. Didn't cut off a single finger while doing that.
Yep. Look at that sucker.
That's nice. I haven't seen that box in a while.
Yep, we got
That's
some nice.
Maplewood, Wingay, which is like ebony from Africa, and then yellow heartwood for out of South America. All exotic woods. And,
Some fine
yeah,
craftsmanship going on here.
yeah, I really enjoyed building that box for you. So that's what it was. Any of you listening, you know, if you want to develop a skill in anything from working out to workplace to even your relationship, there's going to be a structured learning element to it. There is the element of failure, but you get back up again, and then it just takes time. Things take time.
Yep.
You pay for everything in life in time. Okay, that's enough talking for me. You go ahead.
Well,
You want to talk about habits or energy?
you know what? I was lucky. I didn't. I had positive influence when I was in middle school and high school. Didn't get derailed. For some reason, I was attracted to wrestling, and to be successful in wrestling, you have to have discipline and you have to create your own structure. And you gotta have the sleep. You gotta be eating well. You need to be working out. And I really aspired to succeed in that sport in high school, and at the same time to succeed in academics. And so my high school and then the sports that provided the structure. I didn't get distracted, and I was able to put my energy into that to try to be the best I could be. And fortunately, I succeeded in those two lanes. And then I became eligible to go to West Point. And you know what? That is just a factory of skill development where it's like a crucible of, learning and leadership development in those 4 years. And then they spit me out at the end and I became an engineer officer. And that's all you do in the Army is learn how to lead others, mission focused operations and activities. And so, talk about the road less traveled, right? I was on that road that's less traveled. Not too many people go that way, and so I was fortunate to start developing that stuff. And so, what I'm really excited about now is that the journey, you took a little bit, detour, but now we're coming back together. And I think that these two paths, while different in the beginning, we have brought them back together. And I think that our two perspectives on life, in relation to these great works and these great books and these philosophies and scientific studies, we can really distill out simple and clear ways for people to understand how to make themselves better in a short time period, and quick turn, proven tools that can help you in your thinking, in your health, your relationships, etc. And so I agree with you 100%. It was the skill development there in school, but it was physical, mental, and a state of being. It's like be, know, do, just like the Army. Be that leader, learn how to do it, and know how to do it. Um, and then those habits were ingrained, to work hard and to accept failure. And West Point pushed you to failure, and you had to learn from it and adapt and get better. And like just like you're talking and talk about structured. They had forced time out at night, and guess what? You're standing at formation 6:30 every morning before you march into breakfast. And so that type of structure, helps build the foundation, for a good life. And but it's not over yet, right? I'm past 50 now, and
Yeah, I think an important thing is to know that you could start again.
yep,
You don't have to get it right the first time you try life. It's okay to rebuild again, and that's why this format and this structure is important for people to know that you could begin to implement and redevelop skills. You could forge new habits. You
oh
can
yeah,
treat yourself better and feed yourself better and have new energy. And you can have a better attitude. You could set a goal to have better relationships in your life, and ultimately to have a greater impact on life. And that's, I remember traveling to West Point to watch you graduate, and that is the essence of that college, is to go therefore and have a good impact, protect our nation, lead people, change lives.
yep,
Remember the old slogan? I don't think it's the slogan nowadays, but be all you can be.
yep. Well, I think they're going
Kind
back
of
to it
cliche,
now.
but true.
They're going back to it because it's so good. And
Yeah.
I can't remember who said this, but everybody leaves a legacy. It's just actually some people do something about it. Everyone has a legacy, but some
Yeah,
people have one worth remembering. And but you're right, Drew. That's the beauty of the human condition, and the adaptive brain and the adaptive body that we have. If you put your mind to it, the sky is the limit. Most often we are the ones that put the limits on ourselves. We put the limits on our how much we can do and how hard we can work. And going through ranger school taught me you don't need food. You only need a little bit of clothing to stay warm. You can do it. You gotta work together as a team. You gotta Your body and your mind can go much further than you think. And if there's a will, there's a way. And so that's the key thing here. And I think the beautiful thing about what we're doing here is not only are we going to help people along the way sharing these ideas and maybe give a little inspiration, but as we do this over the next couple of years, as you go through this transition from prison and into civilian life, we're building a success story that we can talk about for decades. And so
yeah,
I'm pretty excited about enabling and helping your legacy, which is I think is going to take off like a rocket.
yeah. No, that's good. Martin Luther King Jr. said, the deficit is not in our resources, the deficit is in the human will.
Yeah,
It's whether you will, can you will to be, and I didn't do it a free choice and free will out there in society. My life choices put my life in a position where I had no choice but to change. And
yeah,
some people, that's a hospital room. Sometimes you go see a doctor and you don't get the news that you want, and now life is calling you to change. And I ended up in a terrible position because I was out of control and I lost my regard and respect for human life. And I took a human life. And not just a few things about me had to change, everything had to change. But these are extreme examples. The fact of the matter is, all of us are in various places or seasons in our life. And if you want to change, the ability is there within you. You just have to tap into it. Man, I love you. 1 minute left. We're talking about shears. Next week, I think we can get into the outer triangle of life and maybe even the, what did we say, which was love, joy, love, and fulfillment, something of that nature.
yep,
We want to encourage everybody to reach out. We want to know your story. We want to know what spurred your change and what habits, energy, or skills you're developing in your life. I'll leave the last 30 seconds to you.
yeah. It's pretty awesome. And then maybe in the future we'll dig into more detail. The 6 different areas: skills, habits, energy, attitude, relationships, and service. Um, because there's lots to learn in those spaces, and everybody can benefit by looking at those areas in detail. And I'm really looking forward to this journey, Drew. I've enjoyed it to date, and I think we have an exciting path ahead of us. I love you, buddy.
Love you, buddy. Time.
Talk to you later.